the webinar. We're going to be talking through some details about AbilityNet and what we do. So there's myself, we're joined by Amy, and we're joined by another Sarah, and I'll just flick through and get them to introduce themselves. So Amy, take it away.
Hi there, I'm Amy Lowe. I'm the Service Delivery Director at AbilityNet. So I work with our teams that provide services to people at home, workplace services and services for education. So that's what I do at the charity.
Sarah.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Brain and I'm the Free Services Manager at AbilityNet, and I'll come on to talk to you later about how we can support individuals at home with our free services.
And I'm also Sarah, and I work in the marketing team, and I'm mostly here to drive the slides. And yeah, it's great though to be here. We're really delighted to be joining up with Restless. We think there's a lot of crossover between what they do and what we do, and we hope that will become clear as we move through the slides. Yeah, and as has been already said, please do pop any questions that you have as we go through in the Q&A, and we'll try and come to those towards the end. So just to introduce AbilityNet, we're a charity and we support people of any age with any disability or impairment to use technology to achieve their goals at home, at work and in education. So we do that in a number of ways. I won't steal the other Sarah's thunder because she'll come on to talk in detail about that later. On the right hand side, you've got in the middle it says a digital world accessible to all, which is our mission statement. And we do aim to deliver an accessible digital world at work, at home, in education. There's a couple of other circles around there. One says events, so we run a couple of events every year. One is for professionals who are involved in delivering accessible websites, TechShare Pro. Last year, the gold sponsor for that was Microsoft, and we had some real amazing speakers from the likes of Microsoft, Google and Apple, and it's the premier event in the UK, if not in Europe. And then just next to that, it says accessible website. So that's where some of our income comes from, is consultancy in terms of helping other people make sure that their websites are accessible, but that is also supporting our mission in terms of creating a digital world that is accessible to all. So I'll move on to the next slide. Yeah, so we're a pan-disability charity, so we support people to adapt their technology, and we'll explain how later, for all types of reasons, whether they have cognitive impairments, hearing impairments, or are deaf, have mobility issues, neurodiverse needs, visual impairments, or blind. And that's for anyone who's born with a disability or whose needs change as they age. And we'll come on to talk about that a bit more later as well. So Amy's introduced herself. We did some background research on this. So we've got some commonly asked questions, and Amy has very kindly recorded some responses to those. So I'll just walk you through those. So here you are, Amy, here we go. So in terms of what workplace services we have.
So AbilityNet provides a range of support to individuals in the workplace, a suite of online resources about tech adjustments that can help disabled and older people work more productively in the workplace, and we also provide workplace needs assessments for individuals. And as part of those services, we partner with Clear Talents, an organisation who have online tools that support identifying and implementing reasonable adjustments at the recruitment and onboarding stages.
And so the next question here is, are you seeing a greater need for adapting the workplace as people work in later life longer?
Disability is often acquired, and the likelihood is that everyone's going to develop some kind of disability in their life, and more likely within their working life. But what's great with tech these days is that a lot of the tools that would have been specialist softwares that had to be purchased and installed into people's devices to overcome barriers that connected with disability. Nowadays, there's lots and lots of in-the-box technology in things like the Microsoft Suite, Microsoft Office 365 is already there. People are able to then adapt their tools to meet their needs without the need to highlight an issue to an employer. So the software can adapt to suit your way of working, and actually, you know, many assistive technologies or tech that's been developed to help disabled people is now become mainstream, such as voice assistants.
So this is a hot topic. I know Amy will be talking about it almost in real life later, but how has the pandemic impacted ways of working?
I think some people have found it more challenging than others. But if they have fatigue-related concerns, not having to travel to meetings is fantastic because they can conserve their energy for that actual meeting, and being able to choose whether to put your camera on or off, being able to contribute via a chat function, those sorts of flexibilities are really impactful. I think it's busted quite a lot of myths around why disabled people, you know, can't join remotely or work from home. So I think that's been really positive. I do think it's very tiring for people, though, on the flip side, to be on lots and lots of Zoom meetings. And again, I would say we're starting to see people not calling a meeting, but working on a shared document. One of the things we've spent quite a bit of time with organisations on this year is helping them to develop housekeeping rules around online meetings, because the flexibility can also make it a little bit chaotic. It's much more difficult to take the temperature of a room when you're online as to whether people do need a break or not. So building them in as standard at regular intervals is a really sort of inclusive way to go.
And finally, just to talk about the future of our workplace services, but I know we'll come on to talk about some of that in depth in a second as well. If I can make it play, here we go.
In terms of direction of travel, increasingly we're now focusing more on working with organisations, evaluating their environment, their culture and their working practices, and seeking to make changes to these with the goal of creating a workplace that's inclusive by design. The reason behind this is, you know, it reduces the requirements for individual reasonable adjustments, which can be time consuming and unlikely to reach absolutely everybody. Whereas if you try and adjust and fix the environment and the working practices, that takes the onus off employees to need to bring up barriers in the first place, because they have often been designed out then through proactive considerations.
So
disability is
right, sorry about that. That happened in rehearsal. I'll just go back to the slide that we need. So I'm going to skip this one for now. We can come back to it, Amy, and get you to talk about the gap analysis and how we are helping organisations with this cultural piece.
Thanks, Sarah. So none of you saw my lips move earlier, but whoever she was, she sounded like she knew what she was talking about. So this first slide, I'm really passionate about workplace inclusion. So I do apologise if I get a bit excited, but there's a quote on this first slide, and it's from Jenny Leigh-Fleury, who's the Chief Accessibility Officer at Microsoft. And it says, if you don't know how accessible you are, you're not. And I think it's a really, it sums up a great way to think about workplace inclusion. And you just need to be really open and curious to think about and find out what you're doing well, and then also to be able to spot areas where you can improve, and really look to create a sense of belonging across the whole organisation, so that diversity and difference is kind of celebrated and everyone's invited to the table, has a valued place and a voice to contribute on a level playing field. So just moving on to the next slide, AbilityNet have been thinking about how we can help with that whole process. And we've designed an employee inclusion gap analysis. And it's basically a process that runs through all the different steps in the employee journey. So looking at recruitment, onboarding, ways of working, and then also developing people into more senior roles. And what we do is work with organisations to go through a survey. Then we'll look at the findings with that organisation and have a discussion about what's driving things perhaps not being in place, and what it would take to get those things put in place, and any additional support that they need. And as a kind of a leave behind, there's a report which will help them to prioritise and say, these are our short-term goals of what we can implement, these are our medium-term goals, and perhaps some of the more long-term goals, you know, or trickier to implement. There's additional support that we can offer with that. So moving on to the next slide, there's different ways we can approach it. Just a one-to-one survey with a key contact at the organisation is a really good way to get started. But we also offer the team level one, which is where we would survey a cross-section of employees within the organisation. Quite often one person's experience will be slightly different to somebody else's, so even looking at differences and being able to zone in a larger organisation to spot perhaps areas of the business that do have specific challenges and be able to help them to address them. Prior to lockdown, we were also able to offer an on-site visit where we could look at the physical environment a little bit as well and talk to the team in person. So that may be coming back online depending on how things progress. So yeah, so that's the gap analysis process. And then moving on to the next slide. Oh yeah, so this is just a bit of a summary of the roadmap going forward. So you'll obviously get your report, and we'll typically put in a little bit of a follow-up call to nudge you and see how you've been getting on and give you some support and feedback going forward. And if there are additional services like training or, you know, help evaluating things like policies or writing guidelines, as the initial slide said, that's things that we can help with as well. So a quick overview of our workplace services. So there's the support available for individuals, so identifying individual reasonable adjustments or working directly with individuals to take them through some of the in-the-box support services that are available through things like Office 365. We've got a range of free online resources, blogs, fact sheets, guidance on how to adapt your technology to meet your needs via My Computer My Way. And we run lots of webinars with a great range of guests. We did one yesterday, actually, very Microsoft focused, but it was a session tonight. But we were talking to a gentleman from Microsoft about inclusive and accessible recruitment. I've got lots of good tips there. And then the support for employers, which we've covered off. So that's a quick whistle through our workplace services.
So Sarah.
Hi, so yeah, I'm going to go through. Amy's given us a great tour of how we can support people in the workplace. So I'm going to come on now and talk to you about support for individuals. So that could be possibly support for yourselves or for relatives or friends. So again, we support anyone with any disability, and we also support older people as well through our at-home service. So you can see in the top box there, we've got our free phone helpline. So the 0800 number is available for anyone to call with any queries about disability and technology. And that's a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday line. We also provide in-person support through our amazing volunteers. So we're reaching almost 350 volunteers, so 350 across the UK, and they will support people at home with their technology. Again, prior to pandemic, we were doing home visits. We now provide all that support remotely, generally via something like a remote connection via TeamViewer, but a lot of it we do over the phone as well, or video calls, or lots of ingenious ways of helping people, dropping equipment off, picking it up, and helping out in all sorts of ways. So you can request volunteer support through that 0800 number or through the online form, which I think is linked in that box as well, with support at home. Amy touched on our online resources. There's a whole host of things on the website to check out that can support you. The My Computer, My Way, I'll come on to talk a little bit more about that later, but a great website with some step-by-step guides to adjusting your device to make it easier to use. So that's a great resource. Lots of blogs with all the latest news and developments in technology. And also a series of fact sheets, which are really useful as well. They tend to be great sort of introductions to things about disability and technology. So it might be an introduction to screen readers. There's one about dyslexia and technology, one about stroke and technology. So lots of really good resources there. We've recently just done one on tech for seniors, which would be an interesting one as well. So yeah, definitely go and have a look at those. And finally, we're all about community and partnership. We love working with other people to achieve our aims. We do some joint fundraising and our own fundraising as well. And then we've got several partnerships. There's one there really closely with the Stroke Association, supporting their individuals and their groups to help them on their sort of technology journey. And particularly with our volunteers linking in locally with local stroke support groups. Okay. So we've touched on this, adapting your existing technology. Amy was talking about this earlier. So now it used to be that you'd have to buy a whole host of kit to be able to adapt it. Now there is so much inbuilt. So it's worth just thinking about the technology yourselves or people you know have got, and looking for the adaptations that you can do that are already built in. Going to the next one. Okay, so there's some examples on this slide about how you can adapt your existing technology. There's things like screen readers. So if you've got an Apple iOS device, it's called VoiceOver, or if you're using Android, then it's called TalkBack. There's also, I use quite often in Windows as a Windows narrator. So if you want a document read back to you, you can click on a read aloud and that will just be read back to you rather than having to read everything that's on the screen. You can use voice input. So you probably might have heard, I might not say it too loud in case anybody's got it switched on, but you can use Siri, or there's the Google Voice Assistant for Android as well. If you only want to use your keyboard to input, you can do that as well. There's loads of things you can do in terms of inverting colours or making your screen easier to use, magnification, zooming in. So loads of different adjustments. And I mentioned My Computer, My Way earlier, but if you go on that website and look at the step-by-step guides, there's some really useful hints and tips for doing that. Okay, go on to the next one. So this one just shows you a few different alternatives to your standard mice and keyboard. And again, it will depend on your requirements, but there'll be different ways to access your equipment. So if you look at the top left, there's a picture there of a rollerball mouse. So you can use that with, if you've just got 1 or 2 fingers that you've got mobility in, and it reacts to smaller movements. So it can help with sort of dexterity and things like that. There's obviously, if you've got lower vision, you might find the keyboard there more useful, the yellow and black, which is brighter and easier to use. Perhaps if you've got a cognitive impairment, the one with the different blocks of colours might help, so you can be directed to certain areas of the keyboard more easily to help you with that. But there's loads of different, and there's a fact sheet there linked on the page to alternative input devices, which we'll talk through those as well. And I touched on earlier our 0800 number. Alex in the team there, our advice and information officer, is a font of all knowledge on all the different adaptive technology and what can help you. So he's always available to have a chat about that as well. So screen readers. So we support obviously people with visual impairments and blind people, and these are the different screen readers that are available for those people. JAWS, which is kind of the gold standard really of screen readers, but it tends to be used more in the workplace. But what now is available, and that's Job Access with Speech, it stands for. But what is also available now, which is brilliant, are loads of free alternatives to those kind of screen readers. So there's one there, NVDA, which is some free screen reading software, and then the ones that we touched on earlier as well for the different devices. So it doesn't mean that you have to pay hundreds of pounds now to make use of this technology. And again, just a chat to Alex and the team in terms of what you're trying to achieve with your screen reader would direct you in the right direction that you'd need to go. So smart tech. So some of these you may have at home, and again, I'll try not to say any names too loudly to set any of them going, but they're obviously directed by voice input, and it helps you live and work smarter at home. And I think at a time particularly of social distancing and isolation at the moment, these are great. I know sometimes I have a chat to Alexa and ask her what the weather's like, what the news is like, play me a song if I'm having a quick break from work. So really good devices there. Obviously there's ones now as well, particularly useful if you've got a hearing impairment. You now have the ones with the screens as well. So there's an Alexa Amazon show there. You can see that Dinner with Judy is on that one. So there's lots of different variations coming out now, and depending on how you've got it connected at home, it can do all sorts of things. I know my neighbour has recently had a stroke and she's come back home. Unfortunately, she can't move from her chair now, but she's got the lights going on and off when she wants to. She's got the heating coming off when she wants to. She can ask Alexa to phone her daughter to get in contact. So she's really linked at the house, and it's pretty straightforward to use. You know, she's in her 80s, but she's definitely managing to do all that. So yeah, lots to do with smart tech and devices, and there's lots of knowledge within AbilityNet in terms of how to use these and what to do. Okay, so there's a little clip here to bring to life some of our volunteering. This is the lovely Miles from Wiltshire explaining a bit more about one of his clients.
Well, my name is Margaret Dobson and I live in Wiltshire. I've always been involved with books, both as a teacher, lecturer and a writer. Well, I have macular wet degeneration. I've had it for a long time in one eye, which is now not much use. And suddenly the good eye began to go. Life just fell apart. My link to AbilityNet is through a particular person called Miles Pilling. And I was in a desperate state when he came, and I have now managed to get some of my life back on track. He came magically on his electric bicycle and came into the house, and we just started from there.
My name is Miles. I work with Maggie. I've been working with her for 6 months, and I've been helping her get to use her iPad Pro to do her writing.
And he's extremely good at helping me, and I'm sure he is with helping other people.
She is a great lady who really wants to continue to do what skills she has. She wants to be able to write, and so we looked at the technologies that might make that easier for her. Here's something that's making a difference to people's lives.
I don't know how I'd have managed without him, quite honestly.
She values the way we do it. The way we do it is non-threatening and cooperative.
But it's the personal approach that is so helpful, is to help me to go on being me, I think.
Get the feeling she may want to call me every now and again to ask, Miles, can you help me with this? If you have a disability or a limitation due to a life-changing event, please contact us. Doesn't matter, we deal with all the major disabilities, and I'm sure from the basis of the knowledge I have of all the volunteers, we can help you.
AbilityNet has a network of 300 trusted volunteers who help older people and people with disabilities make the most of their technology. AbilityNet.org.uk.
Well, my name's Margaret.
Oh, hang on, there you go.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing that, Sarah. Miles is just one of the 350 volunteers I talked about earlier, supporting people at home with sort of troubleshooting problems, helping them set up new technology, helping them get connected. More and more of late, we've been helping people get Zoom calls set up or FaceTime so they can keep in contact with relatives and friends. And there was another quote I just found the other day that I thought would be really nice to share with you about how Pat, one of our volunteers, has been helping a particular lady. And it says, I've just finished my 3rd session with Pat, and what a joy my sessions have been. She's knowledgeable and patient and has helped me enormously. I got very behind with computer jobs and I was ill. When I came back to my computer, I had a hard time to fathom out what I was going to do. But then Pat came on the scene and I barely looked back. I hope I shall now be able to function better, but it's wonderful to feel that if I run into problems, Pat may be able to assist where she left off. Thank you so much, in particular, Pat. And I think that just shows how we really do work on a one-to-one basis, tailored to that individual. And our aim is really to empower them to be able to use the technology, not to rush in, fix a problem and then rush away, but to help them and explain in sort of normal layman terms about how they can make the most of their technology at home. So we've just got a slide about volunteering with AbilityNet. So we've talked about our 350 volunteers, and we always welcome new volunteers on board to the team. And there's a link there on the screen if you'd want to find out more about volunteering. Don't have to be a huge tech guru to be able to do it. It's generally fixing day-to-day problems. We also do lots of training as well on the different adaptive technology that we run each month as well. I think the great thing about this volunteering scheme that's different to others is it's really flexible. You can manage around your own workload and your home and life commitments, because you can make arrangements to support a client at a time and a day that suits you. So volunteers, they're saying, able to manage my workload independently and fit in with other parts of my life. Extremely rewarding work and lots of support available. So that's what we aim to do, which is great. So there's some figures there from our 2020 impact report. We have a 77% promoter score. So lots of our volunteers are really highly satisfied with the volunteer programme. There's an engagement score there of 8.9. We survey our volunteers a couple of times a year, and that's out of 10. So we're really proud of our volunteering scheme and how well it's received with our volunteers. And last year we brought on a new 123 volunteers. So we have a small central team that do that and work incredibly hard to keep everybody on board and engaged. Okay. So I touched on the impact report. We've recently published our 2020 impact report, worth taking a look at on the website. but this just brings to life some of the numbers in terms of the people that we've supported through our different channels across the charity. So we're obviously supporting students through our Disabled Students Allowance Scheme, and we haven't really touched on that much today, but that is there as well. We support employees, which Amy's talked about. We've 3,500 people at home we supported last year through our volunteers and advice and information scheme, and lots of online traffic. So 1.7 million there, people visiting our website, getting more advice about disability and technology. So there's some more numbers there in terms of other things we've done. Amy's talked about our workplace assessments, and we did over 400 of those last year. Clear talents we didn't talk so much about on, so we can either pick up on that if it comes up in the Q&A, or we can share the links to that as well. But 6,000 employees have got access to that system. Our assessors who are assessing people, students and people in the workplace, recommend lots of adjustments to make working life and student life easier. Close to 29,000 of those recommendations were made last year. We offer lots of free training places in terms of accessibility. Excuse me. Last year we offered some free training courses which were really popular. So 451 places we gave away last year as well. And we've touched on the helpline, so just shy of 1,600 helpline inquiries complete. And we do around 1,000 free hours of volunteering across the team each month. So yeah, those volunteers giving their time for free to support people at home. And there was just a lovely quote again there, feeling a lot more confident now, knowing that AbilityNet can lend support. Thank you, a wonderful charity. And these are just some of our online numbers. So we've talked about My Computer, My Way, but lots of visitors going to that site for help with how to adjust their technology to make it easier to use. People also viewing our fact sheets there. Hopping on board our AbilityNet live webinar session, where we've talked about lots of things like running accessible meetings, how to avoid scams, how to connect with people, and lots of accessibility topics as well. So those 4,000 people attending those last year, and then the blogs as well that we talked about earlier, just keeping up to date with the latest news on technology and disability. And that's it, I think. We were open to the Q&A box. I think there's a few coming in.
Yes, thank you very much, Sarah and Amy. I've got, and thank you very much for the questions, everybody. There is Heidi, sorry about the pronunciation, is more of a comment than a question, but maybe some feedback from the three of you can be given to her. She says, you sound so valuable. Excuse me, I am a SLT working with adults, and it's tricky for me to keep tech knowledge comprehensive. I'm so glad to hear of you. So I don't know if you have any feedback for Heidi there. Liz.
Sorry, I was going to say, if she's struggling to keep up to date, I do with all the latest tech, but she's more than welcome to refer people onto us if they need some extra tech support or want to chat through how they can adapt their technology to make it easier to use. So yeah.
It would be well worth as well, Heidi, signing up for our newsletter. So we have regular newsletters that go out, and they're a nice sort of pick of the most recent blogs, and it will invite you to our free webinars and so on that we're running. So yeah, I'll pop the link to sign up to the newsletter in the chat for anyone who would like to do so.
Yeah, and lovely feedback. Tell your friends, that's what I would say. We do have a refer a friend link on our website, and there, as Sarah said, there's an online form there, so you can point people to that if they need support as well. So yeah, refer people on to us.
Excellent, thank you. Liz is asking if there is a cost to all the training.
So we have free training and paid for training. So some of the training on specific accessibility skills is chargeable, or if you wanted to get us to come along and give training at your company, for instance, that would be chargeable. But we do run free training sessions, which we advertise through the newsletter. Our webinars are free and you get lots of useful information there. And with regards to what Sarah was covering about the support and training at home for individuals to learn how to use their technology, that's all completely free, isn't it, Sarah?
Yeah. So the one-to-one training with the volunteers, and we don't offer training courses as such at home, but they will show you how to use things probably better than a training course on a one-to-one basis with exactly what you want to get out of your equipment.
And Amy, I wonder if now is a good time to also cover Clear Talents, which we skipped over the video, and just talk about how individuals can use that.
Oh yeah, this is a fantastic platform that was developed by some people at AbilityNet with an organisation called Clear Talents. So it's an online questionnaire which is aimed at people in the workplace, for them to go through, and they answer questions about challenges or barriers that they might encounter as a consequence of a disability or impairment. And as someone, it might be me, said earlier on, a lot of the time disabilities are acquired, so it's something that might crop up. You could have a condition that develops or whatever, so it's a very useful tool to use at any point when you're working at an organisation, but can be really good when you've got a new job, because it gives you the ability to share with your employer the reasonable adjustments that you might need and get those put in place. So again, we'll put some links out to you so that you can go and discover for yourself. And then for those of you that work in organisations that might be looking after teams, it's possible to also have a corporate version of Clear Talents that allows you to do the case management as well and see statistical information about impairments that people might have in your organisation and adjustments that they need, which can then feed into your inclusion strategy and perhaps some of the things that you could put in place as universal adjustments for everybody.
Thank you, Amy. We have another question. It's someone, I don't know their name, sorry about that. I am a heart transplantee with a visual impairment. My local RNIB branch had a good technology service, but this has imploded. I do some part-time consultancy, but wonder how you can help. I have a big laptop, but afraid of being too involved with it.
Yeah, so we could definitely help. I think a chat to Alex on the advice and information line again would be really useful to see how we can help in different ways. We do work really closely with RNIB as well, and they have a similar tech volunteering scheme and helplines. So I'm sure between the two of us, we'd be able to help with the information and knowledge that you would need.
Thank you, Sarah. We have Roman who is asking, many of these options are expensive. Any other options?
Well, yeah, I hope that it came across that some of it isn't expensive and a lot of it is now built in. So yeah, depending on what device you've got and what your needs are, I should imagine there are lots of free alternatives and free apps and things that we could use to support you. I think the main one that I talked about was that obviously some of the different keyboards and mice are chargeable, but a lot of the software now is free and inbuilt.
And the price of those peripheral equipment is coming down and down, isn't it? So do ring up again. Alex, our advice and information officer, is a man about town who knows where you can get the best value for money. So he'll be able to give you a really good steer on where to go.
Yeah, there's also a lot of places where you can borrow the equipment from as well and sort of try it out before you do spend any money, which is a great way of doing it rather than spending straight away.
And just another plug for My Computer My Way, because there's lots of tips on how to adapt the technology you've already got. So there's the alternative input devices, but My Computer My Way will tell you how to do things like turn on sticky keys to make things useful, or how to use your computer without using the mouse and how to do that. And that's all free to do, isn't it, Sarah?
Yeah, definitely.
And again, sorry, I should have noticed that Roman is also asking how national you are. He lives in Shipley, West Yorkshire.
Yes, so our volunteers are across the UK. I mean, we're supporting remotely at the moment anyway, so a huge big team of 350 specialists, but we do have a team in West Yorkshire, yes, so we're covered up there. So yeah, we have volunteers local to you.
Great stuff. Thank you, Sarah. Kim is asking, I work with a charity helping people back to work, some with disabilities. Would you be a guest speaker for free?
Who's that directed at? I'm sure any of us would be happy to.
Yeah, we quite often speak at different events. I think there's another one coming up, isn't there, from Michelle from the Thalidomide Trust as well,
yes.
saying would we be able to come along? Yeah, we do lots of sort of talks, so we can more than happy if you drop us a note, and we'll see what we can do. I think Alex has talked before at the Thalidomide Trust. It rings a bell, so I'm sure we can help out with both of those.
Okay, I don't see any more questions, so I don't know if you want to add something else.
There's a question. We're rarely speechless, are we? Heidi's come in with another question here, actually.
Yes. So do you liaise with other groups, or do have people on my caseload occasionally who have progressive illnesses? Getting tech equipment at short notice is so difficult.
So do you mean, Heidi, do we have links with groups who can lend the equipment? Is that what you're mentioning?
Yeah,
or link.
What she's working in then, because obviously she's talking about caseloads, isn't she? So whereabouts that support is needed, because I'm sure we could offer some advice.
Or self-help groups. I mean, we've got lots of local sort of support organisations and groups that we have links with. So yeah, we'd be happy to sort of connect up people on your caseload with relevant groups that would be able to help them.
Yeah. What I'd add to that is that there is, in terms of the devices, there's a fact sheet on our website which can tell you how to get hold of devices for people. And also something that we've done quite a lot of during the lockdowns is work with charities who've had to do similar to us, have had to move things online. So Stroke Association is an example where they were having local support groups and they needed to move them to Zoom. So we've offered support there in terms of getting people back into work. So we did something recently, Sarah, didn't we, where we specifically did a webinar a bit like this one with the Royal College of OT, so that we could share expertise with them. So we've got lots of connections. So if the question is, how can you run your own events like this online, I think there's a fact sheet on that as well, Sarah, that we've put up recently. So yeah, if you give us a bit more detail, I'm very confident that we can help with that.
Yeah, the final slide, and we'll share the slides, has got some sort of links to different places how you can request support. So yeah, the inquiry will get through to us.
I wonder if you got at your fingertips, Sarah Bottrell, any of our upcoming webinar information of what we've got on the schedule for the next few weeks, because there might be some good titles on there that would be relevant.
No, but I can skip forward to the next slide. So there should be, there's information here. So the information on free webinars will take you to the landing page, which is abilitynet.org.uk/live. We record all the webinars that we do as well, so you can go back in and watch anything on there. And as Sarah was saying earlier, we did quite a lot at early lockdown, so things on how to stay in touch. I think there's something on there around accessible meetings and tips for Zoom specifically, which might be useful. How to reduce social isolation. Like Sarah mentioned, there's something about there's two on staying safe online, which is often a hot topic as well. So yeah, you can scroll through and it will take you to our YouTube channel to watch those. Yeah, so there's plenty of information, and it will also list upcoming webinars on there as well.
Okay, so I don't see any more questions. I would say, you know, we can wrap up. And again, thank you all so very much. As I was saying, as Sarah was saying, that you are going to all get the recording of the webinar, and obviously the slides with all the contact details. So in case you want to get back in touch with the three panelists, but at the same time, the website is widely available for everybody for AbilityNet. This is it, really. Thank you all so very much, and a great evening.
Thank you so much for having us.